We need to have a serious talk. Moose are a problem. This picture pretty much started my TikTok career because the first animal video I ever made was dedicated to just how ridiculous this actually is. And what was true a year ago is still true today. At 1,700 pounds and 7 feet at the shoulder, the moose is always going to be one of those things God forgot to put a scale limit on. The average male moose is 10 feet tall, about the same height as the basketball rim you probably can't touch. Somehow this roy deer is actually closer in size to an elephant than an actual deer. Also, moose can swim and they'll dive up to 20 feet in lakes just to eat underwater plants. Which means at least once in the history of mankind, some guy actually lived this and probably never slept well ever again. His therapist drives a Bentley. Also, moose can run through 6 feet of snow at 30 miles per hour. Those numbers might not mean much to you, but I bet this video will. It's not even the running that scares me, it's what the hell she could possibly be running from. And I don't even know how to describe this. Either the water's shallow or that's Moose Christ. It's the Messiah. You know that thing where they say you should never swerve to avoid hitting an animal 95% of the time? That's cause that 5% is when this antler Grim Reaper's on the road. On a scale of 1 to your buck makes with Weinstein if you hit one, since its entire body can come down on your windshield and crush you. The moose might walk away, but you're not coming out of that without wings and a halo. This right here is why Canadians are polite. Landlords are moose and they pay taxes to geese. You be humble too.
Therapists of Reddit, what was your biggest "I know I'm not supposed to judge you but holy shit" moment? A woman who deliberately kept getting pregnant because she enjoyed the attention, and then would immediately afterwards dump her kids with the foster system or in one case a willing relative. She had 6 kids at the time I met her. I was counseling a 13-year-old girl for anxiety and she reported sexual abuse from her stepdad. I called her mom and told her mother I needed to call Child Protective Services. Turns out that CPS was already aware and the abuse was first reported around the patient's age 7. Mom was aware of the abuse and stayed with her husband anyway. It was a complicated situation, and it wasn't. How could she not do more to protect her daughter? Sorry lady. I'm judging.
There is a very specific reason why brand new Converse sneakers come with this fuzzy fabric on the bottom of their sole. And that reason is taxes. The tax for importing sneakers is 37.5%, but the law states that if more than 50% of the sole is covered in fabric, that legally classifies it as a slipper, which is only taxed at 3%. This legal maneuver is known as tariff engineering, and it's applied in other industries as well. For example, human action figures and toys are taxed higher than non-human action figures, which is why Marvel argued in court that the X-Men are non-human to pay lower taxes. Tariff engineering is the reason why DSLR cameras can't record longer than 30 minutes. It's not that they're not physically capable, but if the manufacturer enabled them to record more than 30 minutes, that would legally classify them as camcorders and video recording devices, which are taxed much higher.
So this is a good question. Why do all of the tubes in a medical research lab have pointy bottoms? Doesn't matter the tube. None of them stand up on their own. This seems like a serious design flaw, does it not? Because now we need all of these friggin' racks to hold anything. Well, here's one reason. So in this freezer, you see this? You see this? That little green bit at the bottom right there? That's $100. So for some of those very expensive reagents, we just want a pointy bottom so we can get every last drop of it. I spent a lot of your tax dollars on it. We even have special spinny things, so if it's not collected at the bottom, you give it a little spinnerooski, unbalanced, I don't care, I'm crazy, and then it's all at the bottom now. Bigger ones are really useful because sometimes we'll digest a tissue and we need to get all of the cells out of that digestion, and so we need to spin these in these big centrifuges like this, and we need a pointy bottom so that all of the cells will collect at one point and we can actually get them out of whatever liquid they're in. So why don't they make them with like built-in holders or flat bottoms with like only the pointy bits on the inside? Well, they do. I think I have 1 or 2 here. Yeah, here's a great example. See, it's got a pointy bottom, but the outside is flat. Now the problem with that is it makes it hard to see the sample at the bottom. It's not a huge issue. You can see it's a bigger issue with something like this with the pointy bottom way in there. Overall, when you're dealing with a ton of these little guys every single day, it's just nice to have a little place at the bottom where all of your liquid collects and to be able to easily see it so that you can manipulate it and move it from tube to tube and know how much is being moved. And as long as you have plentiful racks like this, it's really never that big of a problem. And if you don't have racks like that, then you and your lab members just kind of passively aggressively steal from each other every single day.
Okay, so I'm getting ready to feed my starfish. I have 2 of them. There's another one in here, but he's over here on this side. So I'm gonna have to try to work with him and give him a little bit of food on this side. It's really hard when they stick to the rocks and stuff to pull them off because I don't want to rip their stuff off. So I'm gonna try to do this as best as I can. Here goes the food. I'm getting it ready. As you can see, the eyeballs are falling off. It's pretty nasty, but this is what they eat. He's actually moving around trying to find food now. So as soon as this defrosts, then I'll start feeding them and you can see. I'm hoping if I can get it to feed right here, then you guys will be actually able to see it. I'm still waiting for the food. It's slowly falling apart because I can't give it to him cold and you have to actually freeze this to keep it good. But he's moving, he's alive, he's looking for his food now. and he's ready to eat. See, I got the food. I'm getting ready to slowly put it in and see how he reacts and if he wants it. But he's not wanting to take it right here. There he goes. He's slowly opening. He's hooking onto it. He's going backwards so he can pull it. And he has it. He has it right here. It's on him. He's slowly taking it down so he can eat. I think it's pretty cool how they do that. He's waiting this whole time for me to feed him. And I'm gonna pause it right now in a minute until it gets down there so you guys can see. And now he's opening up and he's starting to take the food in. He's slowly pulling it in through his mouth right now. I think it's pretty cool how they do it. Let's see it, there we go. He's taking it right now. He's eating it. And as you can see, he has a really, really good grip on that. And it's going in nice and perfect.
Want to see a deadly toxic mushroom? Meet Amanita bisporagira, or the destroying angel. ID tips. First, if we look at the bottom here, we can see that it has kind of a bulbous base. This is called a vulva. When we get up close to the stem, we can see that it's a little bit shaggy, and it also has this little skirt. That's called an annulus. The gills, which are this fan-like part up here, are not going to be attached to the stalk, which is sometimes called a stipe. The cap, like the rest of the mushroom, is going to be white. Sometimes it has little patches on it, sometimes it doesn't. Now, you might be saying to yourself, golly, this looks an awful lot like the mushrooms that I buy at the grocery store. And you'd be right, it does. It takes time and practice to notice the differences. This mushroom contains what are called amatoxins. Amatoxins are awful things that will make your organs shut down and make you dead. The vast majority of people who die eating a toxic mushroom are going to eat something in this family. It would take less than half of the cap of this mushroom to kill somebody. And that's why we say, if in doubt, throw it out.
What was the very first psychological trick you learned that blew your mind? If you ask someone to move over to an arbitrary different location to talk, could be 5 feet away, they are much more likely to listen to you and follow instructions. One of my tricks as an elementary school teacher. When walking through a crowd, don't look at the people in front of you. Instead, look past them where you are trying to go, and most people will make room without noticing it. I taught teenagers in a really tough London school. A colleague taught me a brilliant trick to get a kid to calm down when they were angry. Look them calmly in the eye and say, "What do you want to happen next?" Most of the time they were so caught up in emotion they hadn't thought about the consequences of their dickery. As soon as you prod them to think about consequences, most of them would calm down straight away. Stop talking. If you want to get more information out of someone, just let them speak. There are times in a conversation that things stop. Most people want to fill this themselves, but don't. Let the other person do it. This is especially useful if you think the person and their story is full of shit. Working as a waitress, if I noticed a customer was getting particularly impatient and it looked like they were going to be rude to me when I went over, When I would take the food over and before they got the chance to speak, I'd say something like, "So sorry for the wait, thanks for being so lovely about it." It seemed to catch them off guard and paint them as the nice guy in my eyes, and more often than not their expression would change from pissed off to surprised. Then they'd say something like, "Oh, no problem, it's okay," so they could keep being the nice guy and feel good about themselves, and I avoided chewing out.
Yeah, leave it to India to have weapons that make you go, wait, what? This right here is the urumi, a kind of weapon which you would get if you crossed a sword and a whip. And no, I am not actually kidding. This is a legitimate whip sword, the final weapon in the martial art known as Kalari Payattu, which I am probably butchering the pronunciation of, so I apologize. And there is a reason why this was the final weapon that was taught. And that is because it was insanely dangerous, requiring both mastery of the sword as well as the whip. And it was insanely easy to get injured here. Oh, and if that was not crazy enough for you, then check this out. This is how it was usually wielded. In one hand you would have the urumi and in the other hand you would have a shield. But the Sri Lankan variation, you normally dual wielded this weapon, and each one would be multi-bladed, having up to 32 blades at the same time.